It is time to get out of pocket. I'm your host, Michael Davis, and we are on the Boom Broadcasting YouTube channel today. Now, Tuesdays, if you've realized, I've been in another studio here in the past. That studio doesn't really exist anymore. So we are actually pre-recording today's episode. So if you guys do comment, I want to hear your comments. Please share it on our YouTube feed, and I'll be acknowledging you the next live stream we do, which will be Thursday, Lord willing, and the creek don't rise, at 5:30 p.m. Eastern time. Want to talk a little bit about these playoff teams. And then, of course, you saw the breaking news yesterday that the Dallas Cowboys and Mike McCarthy are finished. Apparently, Deion Sanders, the Colorado coach, has talked to Jerry Jones, and as of this recording, which is around noon on Tuesday, they did talk, but it doesn't appear that it's going to happen. Sanders saying, and this is a quote from ESPN, Adam Schefter, "To hear from Jerry Jones is truly delightful. It's intriguing. I love Jerry and believe in Jerry. After you hang up and process it and think about it, it's intriguing, but I love Boulder and everything there is about our team, coaches, our student body, and the community. Deion would only come to the Dallas Cowboys or to the NFL if he was coaching his son." And I want to dive so much into that because I feel like Deion Sanders is a little helicopter parent, little helicopter coach, if you will. But we don't have time to dive in to all that Deion Sanders is. What we do have time to dive in for are these top quarter rankings. Now, I want to flash on the screen what we did last week. Not only did we do the top quarter, we did the top playoff rankings. Okay, we ranked every playoff team 14-1, and this is how it lined up. And obviously, you see a lot of these teams are out of the playoffs. Now, the only ones who advanced from this list were the Houston Texans, the Los Angeles Rams, and the Washington Commanders, which if you see the Commanders pick, I've had them rated higher than I did their opponent, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So if you look at that list, you're like, okay, there weren't really any huge upsets. And then you have your top of the top playoff teams. And of course, Green Bay is gone. Minnesota is gone. When we had 3 NFC North teams in the playoffs and one of the strongest divisions in NFL history, now we only have 1 remaining. We actually have 2 from the NFC East. So talk about a turn of events. But now we're finally back down to the remaining 8 teams in the NFL. And I want to go one by one ranking these and telling you guys who's at the top. Well, as it stands right now, at the bottom, at least of the playoff teams, is the same team I had at the bottom of last week's rankings, the Houston Texans. Now, Houston, I will give them credit where credit is due. They beat up on the defense of the LA Chargers, but it was really Justin Herbert. And we talked about this yesterday on Out of Pocket. It was really Justin Herbert who cost this Chargers team a chance to advance. Potentially Khalil Mack. That was his final game. He's undecided on his future, whether he's going to return to the Chargers or whether he's going to retire. So we may have seen the last of one of the better pass rushers in our generation, Khalil Mack. But Texans, they had a 20-point victory, 32-12 against the LA Chargers. And it wasn't anything special that CJ Stroud did. It wasn't anything special that Joe Mixon did. Yeah, Mixon had 25 carries, 106 yards, a touchdown. Yeah, 13-yard catch. Nico Collins, obviously the main weapon now in Houston, 7 catches, 122 yards, a touchdown. I want to say that Houston could not stop Ladd McConkey. 9 catches, 197 yards, a touchdown. They're just okay that nobody else can catch the ball. Will Dissly, 2 catches, 5 targets. DJ Chark, 1 catch, 4 targets. Quentin Johnston, former first-round pick just 2 years ago. 0 catches, 5 targets, and a lot of those were dropped. So I don't entirely put the game on Justin Herbert's shoulders. There is shoulders to blame when it comes to the Houston Texans beating the LA Chargers. But man, I just look at Houston. I also take into account with these rankings who they're playing week 1, and they play the back-to-back defending Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs. Come in at number 7. I got the Los Angeles Rams. Now, give LA credit where credit is due. They played one of the greatest wildcard teams we have seen, one of the best wildcard teams we will see based on record-wise. Minnesota Vikings coming into this as the 5th seed, 14-3. And anytime you see a team with a 14-3 record, they usually have home field advantage, or at the very least, they will win their division and have a home game. That wasn't Minnesota's case because of Detroit in their division. And there was a lot of weird stuff happening with this game. We had to move to Arizona due to the wildfires in LA. And so the Rams won their division, didn't even get a home playoff game as promised. So more of a neutral site. And the LA Rams just, I mean, it wasn't close. It wasn't pretty. The LA Rams beating the Minnesota Vikings 27-9. Sam Darnold struggled. The offensive line struggled too. Let's talk about that. You know, everybody was commenting, hey, this is the Jet Sam Darnold, 25 of 40, 245 yards, a touchdown, an interception, a fumble lost, but 9 sacks given up. You are not going to win many games in the NFL giving up 9 sacks, but you sure as won't win a game in the playoffs giving up 9 sacks. So there is a lot more blame to be placed around. It's kind of crazy. Rams tying a playoff record with 9 sacks this game. To where you look and you're like, Cooper Kupp, he had 0 catches in the first half. He had 1 target this game, 1 catch for 29 yards. And for a guy who was considered one of the better receivers in the game just 2 or 3 years ago, or at least top 5 before his injury, that's kind of crazy that the Rams were able to win there without a receiver who had a big game, without Kyron Williams having a big game, who had 16 carries, 76 yards. But, I mean, this game was over. It felt like after the first quarter, definitely after the second, when it was 24-3 at halftime. It felt like Minnesota was obviously in an uphill battle, and that allowed the Rams to just pin their ears back and go charge at Sam Darnold, and it worked. And coming in at number 6, I got the Washington Commanders. The Washington Commanders were the closest playoff game of Wild Card Weekend, and they won on a doink field goal victory over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But I will say Tampa is a good team. I full-heartedly believe they could have won 15 of 18, 185 yards, 2 touchdowns for Baker Mayfield, 0 interceptions. Rashad White, wasn't really there, so they really had to rely on Bucky Irvin. I wish they could have had a more of a balanced rushing attack, but that wasn't the case in this game. Mike Evans, 7 catches, 92 yards, and a touchdown on 7 targets. I felt like you could have targeted Mike Evans a little bit more, figured out ways to get him the ball to help your team. But it's pretty crazy to think, this was our closest game, and people were saying, Washington, like, Bobby Wagner washed. No, he led the team in tackles. I mean, Jeremy Chin, he's not making a difference in Carolina. No, he also led this game in tackles for Washington. Marshawn Lattimore traded midseason. Frankie Louvu, not good enough. Dorrance Armstrong, Dante Fowler, guys that Dallas refused to sign, and then went to Dan Quinn up in Washington. This is a team. Oh, Austin Eckler, by the way, washed. Not that he had 3 catches and 8 carries, 27 yards, helping Washington. This was very evident that this Washington team just hung in there, believed in Jane Daniels, believed in Dan Quinn, and they were rewarded with a walk-off field goal win, doinking in their first playoff win since 2006. And a lot has happened since 2006. Let me tell you. So give kudos to Washington beating the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Coming at number 5, I got the Buffalo Bills. If you did watch Out of Pocket, you understand that I was predicting an upset. Denver against Buffalo, and it looked so good after that touchdown. Bo Nix, a deep pass, Troy Franklin, the first ever rookie quarterback to hit a rookie wide receiver for a touchdown in a playoff game. And I was like, okay, we got a game. And then Buffalo was like, no, we don't. I mean, it turned out to be 10-7 at halftime, and then it just got way out of hand very, very quickly. It was interesting because once they go up 21-7, you're at home, you haven't lost at home all year, you're going into the fourth quarter, and of course, Josh Allen hits Curtis Samuel, seconds into the fourth quarter, and you just knew it was over at that point. I think Bo Nix is talented. I feel like Bo Nix really deserves more respect when it comes to Rookie of the Year because he has the second most passing touchdowns as a rookie quarterback in history. He got Denver to the playoffs that Super Bowl champion Russell Wilson couldn't do. So it's not entirely Sean Payton. And Bo Nix put his team in position to stay in the game, and it's just Denver overachieved this year. Let's be honest. Denver overachieved. You look at that roster, and you're like, this is a team who will be picking top 10, if not top 5, in the 2025 draft. Instead, they were in the playoffs. So kudos to Denver for getting this far. Buffalo, you have Josh Allen, who's not turning the ball over, who's making plays with his legs, making plays with his arm. You have James Cook, who's a good balance. Receivers a little concerning. Amari Cooper didn't do too much. 2 catches on 3 targets for 8 yards. Curtis Samuel, Khalil Shakir, maybe they're Josh Allen's favorite targets. Give them credit where it is due, though. Buffalo advancing, and we'll see what happens when they play the Ravens. But coming in at number 4, we have the Philadelphia Eagles. Philadelphia Eagles beating the Green Bay Packers 22-10. They've lost Nakobe Dean for the playoffs. But Jordan Love, 3 interceptions. The secondary was eating it up. And if there's any bright spot for Philadelphia, yes, you got Saquon Barkley, who's an MVP candidate. Yes, you have A.J. Brown. Yes, you have Jalen Hurts healthy. Yeah, you have Jalen Carter making big plays in the backfield. The best part for Eagles fans is Kenyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, the rookie corners, I was worried about. I thought they were going to get toast by the likes of CeeDee Lamb, by the likes of Malik Neighbors, by the likes of Terry McLaurin, but they're still standing, and they have been a bright spot for this Philadelphia Eagles defense. And Nolan Smith, 8 tackles, 2 sacks, 2 quarterback hits. I mean, this is a team that, it might not be pretty. Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, A.J. Brown didn't really have big games, but it was on the back of a healthy Jalen Hurts, 13-21, 131 yards, 2 touchdowns in the air, but 6 carries, 36 yards, extending plays, extending drives. And then you have Saquon Barkley, 25 carries, 119 yards. They were able to contain the Green Bay Packers, until Josh Jacobs scored a touchdown in the fourth quarter. And it was pretty much all over right there. Doesn't really help Green Bay without Christian Watson, but you do what you do. Philadelphia wasn't pretty, but they find ways to win games. Come in at number 3, might be a little controversial. And I can already hear you guys in the comments. I got the Detroit Lions. Let me explain. Okay? This isn't a slight on the Detroit Lions. This is praising a team that I rank higher than them. But it is interesting to see when a team has a bye week and has a strong regular season, but not a lot going for them in the playoffs in recent years. Yes, they got to the NFC Championship game last year, but they play a Washington Commanders team that is on a roll. They won their final, 5 games of the regular season, and they won a playoff game last week in lucky, fortunate fashion against Tampa. That is concerning to me. how much this Washington team believes in Daniels and Quinn. And then you have Detroit on a rest week. So be wary of that. I'm not saying that the Detroit Lions can't get it done. But I will say it will be very interesting to watch how this Detroit team responds, especially with Ben Johnson, getting interviews this past week, with Aaron Glenn getting interviews this past week, with the Cowboys job opening up. Are they going to be fully invested, or are they already planning their future as head coaches in the NFL? That will remain to be seen. I feel like Washington's Dan Quinn had a little bit of issue with that. Coming in number 2, I told you guys, the Baltimore Ravens have this. They have this. They are favored by 1 point as of now against the Buffalo Bills on the road. And I told you guys, if they can keep Derrick Henry healthy, if they can keep Lamar Jackson healthy, that's it. You don't need a strong offensive line. You don't need a strong receiving core, which they do. They actually won this previous game without Zay Flowers, who is questionable going into this weekend's game. And you don't need a strong defense. And Baltimore has struggled in pass defense here recently. But when it comes to, allowing points, they allow about 21 points. That's about 9th in the NFL, but they're scoring 30 plus. They are running the ball the greatest, 187 yards. Lamar Jackson's best statistical year. I believe Lamar would deserve the MVP this year instead of last year. Dak should have gotten it last year, but full-heartedly, I believe this is Lamar Jackson's best year. And it's because this front office went out and got Derrick Henry, and it's solving their issues. They came into this playoffs on a 4-game winning streak, winning 5 of their final 6, and they beat the division rival Pittsburgh Steelers, and 28-14 wasn't even close. It was not close. They had their way against Pittsburgh, and you may be saying, oh, it's Pittsburgh. Well, Ravens and Steelers always play close. They always play close, and the Baltimore Ravens handled business. So you need to be afraid of the Baltimore Ravens, but you do not need to be afraid more than you are of the back-to-back defending Super Bowl champion, Kansas City Chiefs. Guys, it almost feels like a formality. Yes, Baltimore has their best chance. Yes, I would say Detroit or Philly. I had Philly over Detroit last week. I changed my mind after watching Philly against Green Bay. I put Detroit over them. Any of those top 4 teams with a slight outside chance of the Bills, depending on how this Bills-Ravens game goes, could be hoisting a Lombardi trophy. But there is only one team that has done this back-to-back years, and it feels like they are about to go at it again. The Kansas City Chiefs could very well be the first team ever to three-peat. And they were on a bye, but you look at the bye and you're like, well, they've done it before. I mean, there is not any weakness to this Kansas City team, and I feel like a lot of the hate they have gotten is from jealousy. Oh, Pat Mahomes isn't doing that great. Oh, Travis Kelce's not doing as great as he's had to. Because he hasn't had to. Because they have Xavier Worthy. They have DeAndre Hopkins. Hollywood Brown is back. Juju Smith-Schuster. Noah Gray has made some plays. This defense has helped out. And they're like, oh, they've only had like 1-score games and da-da-da-da. Well, guess what? They're not going to have a lot of blowouts in the playoffs. It's going to come down to one possession. And when they need that one possession, they put everything together. So Kansas City is my top team in these playoffs and will be probably through the Super Bowl, because that is what will happen. They'll get to the Super Bowl and they'll probably win unless Baltimore can make the upset, because as high as I'm on with Baltimore, there is a gap. There is a gap between Baltimore and Kansas City. But guys, those are my top quarter rankings for the remaining 8 teams in the NFL playoffs. We'll be back live Thursday, 5:30 p.m. Eastern time. Thank you guys so much Check out my articles on Fans First Sports Network as well. Shout out to Esteban Serrano with Bernie Radio, who put my article in his piece for a local Texas station. I will drop that link down below for you guys to go check that out. I really appreciate Esteban doing that. But guys, this has been Out of Pocket with Michael Davis on Boom Broadcasting. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to watch the other great content we have for you on the channel. And we'll see you guys back here on Thursday.
Well, that's it. I really hope you enjoyed it. We had a ball making it. Thank you very much.